introduction. I'll take this opportunity to thank the organizers for inviting me here today, tell you about some of the work I've been doing. So it's probably going to be a bit different to the rest of the talks. I'll be talking about a process that we've developed, and hopefully I can show you that it's green and we take a waste and transform it to something with benefit. So I'll discuss this paper, which we've published last year, and basically the idea was to take human hair as a waste and turn it into high-end value products. And the motivation for the work was that we all grow hair, most of us, and we throw it away without giving it much thought. And there is somewhere that there are tons and tons of hair that's accumulating and adding to the waste stream. So the background of the work, just to give you an idea. So hair is made of keratin and it's naturally non-biodegradable. There was work by Ruiz Rodriguez a few years ago, and he investigated a symbiotic relationship between two bacterial species, one called Bacillus licheniformis and the other is Enterococcus faecalis. So the first bacteria produces enzymes that can degrade the keratin, but the second bacteria produces bacteriocins that attack the first bacteria, so naturally nothing happens to the keratin. So, and as I said, it accumulates. Another reason for the non-biodegradability of keratin, it's highly hierarchical in structure. So I don't know how familiar you are with the structure, but basically you have alpha helices that are down to 1 nanometer. They self-assemble and they give you protofibrils, and these self-assemble and give you microfibrils, and then macrofibrils, and then cortical cells, and so on. So in addition to that hierarchical structure, it also has cysteines in there and cysteine-cysteine bonds. So it's very resilient structure. So just go through a couple of things of what people have done with hair in the past. So they've used it to soak oil spills when you have oil being released in oceans, and that you can attribute to the hydrophobicity, hydrophobic properties of hair. So they just bundle them and put them into big bags and dump them in the ocean. And the other one is a very lucrative industry, hair extension. So each year there, I think there is an Indian religious ceremony where people actually shave their hair, and then all this hair ends up in Europe and is sold for thousands and thousands of dollars. So, so here is what we did. So I still remember the day I started this work. I shaved all my hair and went to the lab with a bag of hair, and everyone was laughing at me. They would come and poke their heads and see what I was doing with the hair. But when it got published, they stopped laughing, so I was laughing then. So here's the idea. So you take human hair, and we used a deep eutectic melt, which is made of choline, chloride, and urea, and you can exfoliate the cuticle cells that are lining the hair, and then you can use these to, here we have coated them with a novel antibiotic, and we showed that you can release the antibiotic at conditions reminiscent of the small intestine. We've also taken the hair with or without cuticle cells, and we have attached or immobilized algae on the surface and used that for wastewater treatment. So this is urea and choline chloride. You can see that both of them have very high melting points. Once you mix both together, you get a melting point of 12 degrees, so it's below room temperature. So this was very exciting, and this has already been known. Abbott published a paper in, I think it was 2003, talking about the unique properties of this composite material. So we thought we could investigate what would happen. So hair has a lipid coating it from the outside. It's called 18-methyl icosanoic acid, and it contributes to the hydrophobic and shininess of human hair. So we took hair as is, we added the deep eutectic melt, we removed the lipid on the surface, and we did AFM measurements before and after. We could see that there was a change in attraction between our tip and hair, consistent with removing the lipid from the surface. During the process, which we did at room temperature, we also found out we were able to break down the hair to its building blocks. So here at the top you can, oops, what did I do there? So cuticle cells, which we exfoliated, and then we also show melanin pigments. And the interesting thing was the melanin pigments were in their pigmented form, so they appear to have their structural integrity intact. So a couple of applications we explored was the drug delivery and the wastewater treatment. So this is the drug delivery part. So this is an antibiotic which I helped develop from my honors year, and I named it after myself. And now, together with a few other compounds, they are exclusively and perpetually licensed to Boulos and Cooper Pharmaceuticals. So we're taking these through preclinical at this point. So we doing a simple acid-base solubilization of the drug and coating on the cuticle cells, we could show that we can release the drug at pHs of about 7.5, close to what you find in the gut, but not 2.5, which is what you find in the stomach. And the motivation behind this work was that animals in the poultry industry, they feed them keratin and antibiotics separately. So by doing this, you can have a two-in-one action targeted at the poultry industry. So the other thing we explored was the wastewater treatment. So mix the hair and the microalgae at the exponential phase of the growth of algae. And we let the algae grow for 5 days, and then we did a cadmium reduction method to see how much of the nitrate nitrogen was removed. So here on the right is just some SEM images of how the hair looked like with the algae immobilized on it. So after 1 day, we found that the algae was able to escape from the hair. So it's not a permanent solution. So it's just a temporary solution for up to 24 hours. You can use this technology in its current form. So with the treated hair and the algae, we were achieving up to 23.3%. So it's using waste material and immobilizing algae on it. So last year, we got new heat steering plates, and this was actually accidental. So the new steering plates we got were faulty, so I wanted to set the temperature to just slightly higher than room temperature, but it shot up to over 150 degrees. And spontaneously, the mixture completely solubilized, so I had human hair that completely dissolved in less than 5 minutes. So I was very excited by this, but the other thing that made this possible was that we weren't using the ratios previously explored. We were using the reverse of these. So if you remember, yeah, 2 to 1, we were using 1 to 2. And there was some research by Idris previously, and he explored this same ratio for dissolving keratinous material, but there was very limited success. So the idea then propagated to wool. I got very excited about exploring this technology for wool and seeing if we can do something with waste wool. If you know about Australia, it's the leading global supplier of wool with about 20% of the global market supply. And there is a range of fiber size for which you can use the wool. If it's less than 25 microns, you can use it in garments. If it's greater than 36, you can use it for outerwear and rugs. So we were very excited by this opportunity, and that farmers, especially in small farms, can suddenly take waste material and bring some extra bucks into their business. So I went out to Hahndorf in South Australia. There is an old German town by Australian standards. Went out there, and there was a farm with 20 sheep. And so these small farms, they don't bother doing anything with their wool because it's not economically feasible for them to get shearers, shear the sheep, and do something with the wool. So they had cubic meters of waste wool. So they were very happy to give me bags of this stuff. So I went back to the lab and investigated the wool. And the idea was take the waste wool, add the ionic liquid composite, dissolve the wool, develop applications, any material that's left, sell it to the poultry industry as feedstock. So here are some of the potential applications that we're starting to explore. So with the dissolution process, it takes less than 5 minutes, 150 degrees, and you have everything dissolved. The technology translates to goat wool, dog hair, feathers, so pretty much anything that's proteinaceous in nature. So an added advantage of using this technology is that you have choline chloride and urea, both very soluble in water, so treating the mixture after the process is very easy. You can separate everything very simply. And here I just have a UV vis for the melanin pigments. As I explained earlier, you could see that they were still in their pigmented form. They weren't broken down, and we did UV vis, and they indeed show a typical UV vis absorption for melanin pigments. So you can potentially take these melanin pigments, which we're able to separate in high quantities, and use them in natural sunscreens. So instead of having toxic chemicals in sunscreens, you can just have something that's already in us. So as I said, yeah, I just described this. At the same time, you can separate the keratin that's from the process, and you can use it as a source for dietary supplements. So, of course, this is another very lucrative industry. You can either use the protein soup, if you like, as is, or you can treat it with enzymes. So you break it down to its individual amino acids and separate that and sell the components. So this is just typical composition of wool, and you can see the number of different amino acids in there. And if you work in the peptide field, you would know how much few milligrams of 3 or 4 amino acid chains can cost. So yes, I talked about the dietary supplements, and this is again an LCMS of different fractions, just showing small chain peptides in there. And we can also make gels out of the material with no additives. So all you need to do is just play around with the ratio of the wool to your ionic liquid composite. And so you have a gel that have unique properties like electrical conductivity from the choline chloride. At the same time, you have the urea, which is a denaturating agent. So if you like, you can use this gel to run gels. So we are currently exploring this idea. You can also do electrospinning of the solubilized material to produce new nanofibers. So, and forensic application, won't have too much time to go into this, but the technology can be used for forensic applications, because if you have any illicit drugs in hair, and it's becoming more and more common practice to do this sort of lab testing for hiring agencies, you can detect it with this technology because you dissolve the hair 100%. At the same time, we've done control experiments with pure DNA treated and in the same conditions, same temperature, same length of time, and there is no degradation. So although urea is a denaturating agent for proteins, seemed like it has not affected DNA at this stage. So yeah, I'll just skip through this. And these are the people who are involved in this research. And so Paul Kirkbride and Claire Linan are at Flinders and Dimitri. So we recently, only last Friday, we got a provisional patent filed for this technology, and that's why I wasn't able to send a copy of my presentation before. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think there are really possibilities for me to make now a contract with my hair cutter. Are there any questions?
Oh, got one.
John Glasser, since you've been able to solubilize the keratin mixture, the question becomes then, you have a lot of disposable fiber out there, people not knowing what to do with it. Can you redirect then through a spinning process the fiber so that you regain, commercial useful fiber?
Well, so far, as I said, we've tried everything that's proteinaceous in nature. It works, so I think that should be easy to test. You can just, yeah.
So that's resource recovery.
Yeah,
absolutely,
and we're very keen to try that. Yeah.
Anything else? Oh, right there.
See, this there are industry, not for human hair, but like chicken hair and all those things. They're already isolating amino acids and all those things. And
sorry, I didn't catch your question.
There are industry who are using chicken hairs to isolate the amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
Also, these human hairs are already being used in the forensic for last several years, like DNA fingerprinting and all those. They are being used.
Yes, we're aware of that. The technology, I understand it. I don't know if this is secretive in forensic labs and they don't like to disclose how they
fairly
do
known.
research.
Fairly known. And second is, there will be another religious problem, like a human hair. Even people are, even if it is an animal product, they try to resist of using those products, like toothpaste or anything, even hair oil. I don't know if the human hair, I don't know what will happen.
Thank you. In South Australia, some of the forensics labs we've talked with,
I'm talking about the application, the product coming out of human hair. It's a part of human body, right? So you have to take care of that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you for your comment. We started with human hair just as a proof of concept, but the real application would be for wool, where we don't have dyed material because there is a quality control issue there with human hair. So.